Yeah, I'm Hunter. I work at Datalist Consulting currently, which is a company that I founded about a year ago. And we build custom software and do training, AI integration, technical consulting, that kind of stuff for small, medium-sized businesses. A lot of businesses like medical, legal, accounting, that kind of stuff. And we build things like custom CRMs, health records portals, stuff like that. Where, yeah, our main principle that we built the company on is we a year ago we're like, obviously SaaS is going to die, and software is getting cheaper to build, and we want to build that software for small companies and have them own it and have them own their own infrastructure and host their own stuff. So A, they own everything, and B, they can request a feature change, or we could even teach them how to do feature changes themselves eventually for like next week, instead of relying on SaaS that just kind of fits them but doesn't perfectly fit their workflow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my background is I started in DevOps, did software engineering for a while, all pre-AI. So I'd say I'm an engineer. And before I started doing this consulting, I was actually working in Bankless DAO at something called Bankless Consulting. And I was doing tokenomics and engineering consulting for Web3 projects.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Nice to meet you. You're on the front line actually, so this is great to get your
Yeah.
perspective of things. So I guess you guys saw this opportunity over a year ago, but a lot has changed over the last year. How have you, like, starting this new kind of consultancy agency, how have you guys been changing and adapting with AI tools and in more like your daily workflow instead of the solutions that you're providing?
Yeah. So since part of our philosophy, like I said, is to have people, we build custom software for people, we help them host it and own it. Our goal, and we're pretty much almost there. There are a couple of things we can't do ourselves or impractical. Like email is really hard to do yourselves because it's reputation based. But I won't get into that. But our goal is to internally build and host all of our own software for internal stuff. So we have our own CRM that we've built internally to our workflow. We have our own meeting transcription summary solution that we built. And I'm working on replacing our Google Meet with self-hosted video calling, which I'm kind of excited about because we can integrate. And the nice thing about setting all these things up internally is we can obviously all easily integrate them all into each other. So the video calling app can connect to the transcription, and we can automate things really easily that way.
Yeah, that's funny because we're a lot of what we're doing here and a lot of our discussions right now are around this same idea. It's like, if we can start having a little more control of this stuff, then we can start doing cooler workflows and automations and like getting everything kind of linked up and into this larger infrastructure system, which has AI powers. When you're starting these new projects internally, do you use open source software to kick it off, or is it just kind of like spec it out in one shot, or
it depends on the project. So, for example, the internal transcription and note-taking app, the actual app itself, I just did from scratch because I don't think it was that complicated. From scratch, as in obviously using AI, and I use Codex right now. But obviously, there are open source components, like the transcription and diarization models that we use are obviously open source, like Whisper Turbo and Pi Annotate. And yeah, so for something like that, I would sort of craft it step by step. But for something like the video calling I found, and I guess my decision matrix here is like, I do research first for open source solutions if it makes sense. Like for video calling, for example, there's not much custom we needed to do. Like I kind of wanted it to be like Google Meet, or very simple. You just like create a new meeting or schedule a meeting and it works and it's performant. And so I used actually, it's a product from the French government called La Suite Meet. So it's called Meet, and their org is called La Suite. And the French government basically has these different open source applications that I believe are replacements for Google products. So I use that as a starting point. But obviously, the nice thing is because it's open source, I can easily change it however I want.
Yeah, and I've noticed the same thing. Sometimes I'm like, well, this is simple. I can just do it. And then, as it fleshes out and I start getting other custom needs, it's like, well, man, this is like really boilerplate stuff that was probably in an open source repo that I missed, and now I'm having to build it all. So I have found some of both. Sometimes it's just like build it, sometimes open source. That's interesting with the French government stuff. There was a video chat thing that I did some projects on within the past. I can't remember what it was called, but that might be our next angle. Right now we're using Discord, and we've written our own transcription solution for Discord because it didn't really exist. And but Discord, it's just the constraints and the ecosystem are starting to kind of feel restrictive to us.
Yeah, I will say, on that note of self-hosting your own chat applications, that's another one where we went open source. But I think one of the coolest things that AI recently, let's say in like the past 6 months or like since GPT 5.5, where I could trust it to do this, is if you have your own servers, what I did, so we needed an internal chat application. And what I did is I have a skill in Codex that obviously just tells it about how our Cloudflare and DNS is set up and which servers I want stuff deployed on, and sort of how I want it deployed. And so I can just use my skill, which is Datalist deploy, and then put 3 different open source chat applications, and then give it the DNS that I want them on, and just let it go sit, like with GPT 5.5 and Codex, just let it go deploy all 3 of those. And then me and the team just try each one. We're like, oh, this one's cool, this one's cool. And then just spin down the other ones with one prompt that we didn't want. And so, yeah, we went with Mattermost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we I gotta talk EC into it maybe, but I think the thing with some of these maybe now legacy platforms like Discord, Discord would hate me saying that, but the thing that what they're selling maybe now is discoverability, accessibility, they're like safety, KYC. But yeah, maybe if those aren't the things that you're trying to optimize for, you're actually trying to optimize for communication, then maybe just hosting your own thing does make sense.
Yeah, you guys should try out Matrix. I'm sure you've maybe looked into it, but
Oh yeah, totally.
yeah, we tested that a little bit, but for an internal team, it didn't really make sense.
So you mentioned that you're using Codex right now. Is that like your kind of primary harness or whatever?
Yeah.
Or mainly OpenAI models, or do you use Claude code at all?
I mainly, for the past like 3 months, I think, I've switched to Codex. So originally I was on Cursor for years, I think. And I was switching back and forth. I was on the Opus train before GPT 5.5 came out for a while using Cursor. And then when GPT 5.5 came out, I wanted to try Codex. And so a couple months ago, I switched to it. And I've gone to Claude Code to try Fable while it was out. And if I need some front end stuff, I'll use Claude Code a little bit. to do that, or maybe go back to Cursor sometimes. I like to keep on top of all three of them and use them every once in a while just to make sure I'm not missing out on one actually being better than the other. But right now, in my opinion, I think for my style, Codex with 5.5 is really reliable.
Yeah, I agree. Are you using the Codex app or just the CLI?
I use the app. Yeah, I like it better. I don't really know why people. I mean, I know some reasons why people might want to use a CLI, but I don't really get. Um, it's just so much more limiting, I think, these days to use the CLI. But
I'm a Linux laptop, my daily driver, and so the Codex app isn't available yet. So I only know the CLI, but it feels like I can kind of replicate anything that would be in the app, just because I know how to use Linux pretty well. But I am looking forward to the app coming out. That probably could be any day. Maybe it already is. I haven't.
yeah, and I don't know if computer use is out for Linux yet, but I also run a Linux. I have a Linux desktop and a Mac laptop, which I think is the best of both worlds right now. Um, but computer use has been so good for me. Like as an example, I was publishing an app to an app store this weekend, to the Apple App Store, and a lot of the process is in a web UI, and I really didn't want to do all of those annoying steps that Apple makes you, like, I don't know, like adding products and pricing and signing putting your app on test flight and all of these steps I really didn't want to do. So I basically just ran a Codex goal with computer use, and it did everything great and got the app.
What is computer use?
So on the, I assume it would be on the CLI, but at least on the GUI, it gives Codex the ability to use your computer, like
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. So, well, there's like run dangerously outside a sandbox or something like that.
Yeah.
One of the flags. But it doesn't. I haven't seen a way for it to actually, like, besides using Playwright or something, like, to actually go and start moving my mouse around and things like that.
Yeah, it's probably just Mac, and now they recently added it for Windows too, and it works. It works really well on Mac, and it can use your computer in the background, so it can navigate web pages, applications that aren't accessible via CLI or via um, any other way while you're doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really good.
So, with you doing a lot of this stuff at the front line, really, and a lot of stuff on your local computer, where are things that you still feel are kind of broken or too risky or confusing or complex? Is there
Yeah.
AI is like solving problems? I mean, compared to 6 months ago, obviously, is it like new things coming up now?
Yeah, I think I would a couple of months ago, and even now, I think it's not fully solved. It's obviously the QA side of it, and um, like it can write really good code most of the time, but if it doesn't, especially front end type stuff, it's not going to do a great job QAing it. And I will say the computer use has helped with a lot of at least functional QA most of the time, but it's still not good enough where I can trust. Like a lot of the times, I can trust the code it writes, at least GPT 5.5 and Codex, but a lot of the times I can't trust actual front end outputs from it, right? Like I could never, like my dream and where I think consulting and software is going is that I basically have a call with a client and we walk through their business in different paths and basically spec out software for them on a call, right? And make important decisions, sort of help them know what's available, what can be created, and help guide them down good paths. And then the transcript from that call would build something, or after the call, I would talk to Codex and I'd be like, oh, how do you want to do this technical thing? How do you want to do this technical thing? We make decisions about how it should be built, and then it builds it reliably with a good front end. And so that's the dream, basically, at least my dream of doing consulting like that. And right now, I don't trust it to make reliable working front end. And I don't know when that's going to come, but I would also say I'm trying to teach some of our clients how to use Claude Code, obviously, and I've been testing with some non-technical people, actually pushing PRs that I'll review for features in their internal tools to help them be self-sufficient. And I will say, I think what I've been saying for a while, basically, if AI gives everybody infinite digital power, basically to do whatever they want, it's going to be such a green field that the differentiation between people is going to be what they build, right? Because everybody can build everything. And so I think, I mean, the cliche way to say it is like, oh, the taste is going to be the only thing that matters. But I think it's more just like decision making and what you chase is going to become really important. But yeah, I was saying teaching non-technical people to do it. Obviously, still deployment is really hard. Like, it's fairly, it can do it fairly okay, but like I feel like you have to understand concepts of deployment to know what's happening and not feel weird like deploying something unsafely or something. But I will have an anecdote about how smart Codex is. My super non-technical friend, I was helping him use Codex to mess with the 3D printer the other day. And he just told Codex, he's like, hey, can you make this a link that I can give to my friend to watch like the camera of his 3D printer? And it actually did something really good where it basically uses Cloudflare has secure tunneling and DNS you can use in trial mode where it's like trycloudflare.com. And it basically used that to host the video stream of the camera in a secure way with Cloudflare's trial. Yeah. But yeah.
I've had to do that sometimes where I'm even like, I'm running in that like dangerous mode or whatever, and it's like I'll ask it some question that it can't figure out the answer, so it starts like reading through my logs and like basically hacking my machine. I'm like, wow, this is really impressive that you're smarter than me at this. But you know, like creating secure tunnels and stuff, that's really cool. I link it up in RaidGuild to our railway, and it's the same kind of thing. I'm just like, I want to do this, and it's just like boink, boink, boink. So when you're with your when you're dealing with clients, though, especially like ones that are a little less technical, the things that have kind of came up for us is that like the first 10%, which is like planning and speccing and doing that kind of stuff up front, and then the last 10%, which is really deployment and hardening and things like that, is. But those are kind of, you know, like teaching a new client like this kind of stuff. Have you ran into issues around that, or is there like a bit of, with your DevOps history, you know, are you going in and like, oh, we got to set up Cloudflare and set you up on this, and you know, like get some keys and do things like that, and write this skill, and now you're off, or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say it really depends on how much the client wants to learn. Like if I have a client that's really interested, I'm happy to teach them everything about the technical decisions and trade-offs and how that works. And if they're not interested, I will build something. I will build something like, for example, for deployment, I would build something that is robust and secure that perhaps their Codex or Claude Cowork could hit an MCP to deploy something or do some action. I've been doing that a lot recently, and I actually, a lot of our clients are getting on Codex and Claude Cowork to do stuff for themselves, right? And I've found, I was actually kind of dismissive of MCPs when they first came out, but since everybody is in these interfaces now, it's kind of nice. My transcription, our transcription internal application has Google login and different auth, so clients can log in to their tagged transcriptions, and then they can just go to settings and copy a prompt that adds the MCP to their Claude or Codex. And so we have a meeting transcription MCP in their Codex, so they can ask any questions about the meetings we've had, and I have the same in mine, obviously. So I could basically be like, build what we talked about in the meeting and ask me any technical questions that we didn't get to, and that's a very good starting place.
That seems really cool, really powerful, and yeah, that really is kind of a new way to interact with a client. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I will bring up, so something we've been thinking about, something that hasn't been solved and is per your last question, which I don't know if I fully had answered, but something that does come up is context, transferring context between people. There's not a good system for this. And I found with clients and even internally, we're just copying and pasting messages to each other from Codex or for context dumping. And there's just really not a great system for authing, because you could think of a system where you have an MCP that has access to different people's Claude coworks, right? But like, how do you properly auth all of that? Like, maybe you'll get to a point where you can trust the model to auth certain conversations to certain scopes, and then the MCP can pull people's context, can basically talk to each other, right? But I don't know what the best solution is. We're thinking about it a lot, but.
Yeah, that's something kind of we've been messing with too, because one of the things I think even outside the context, so yeah, we're trying to create kind of a shared memory system, and we have a little like wrapper, like a harness on Codex, but the it's also like when people are creating tasks and workflows, and really these things are part of business intelligence, and we want to be able to audit it and see what's going on. One theme that's came up in a lot of these talks is the kind of EC, I think, called it the atomization of developers, where everyone is just doing things locally. Sharing context is a big pain. When they're gone, we don't know what they were doing or how they were doing it. It's not repeatable. Some of the questions, though, are like, maybe it doesn't need to be. We just vibe up a new thing. But also, there's something about sharing that stuff, I think, that's important for people.
Yeah, I think it's a.
Going off on tangent there.
No, that's good. I think it's a scoping problem, but I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too. And like, if you look at different memory systems, they all handle it in different ways. Like, some are fairly complex, like Mem0, or you get like big RAG systems, and you have, or sometimes they're real simple and it's more like file first and kind of rolling memory and longer term knowledge, episodic. There's a lot of weird angles for that, but all those are really like solutions for an individual in a lot of ways. So once you start like creating like a community or an organization solution, there's different trade-offs.
Yeah, I think when I say scoping problem, it's kind of like either you need to decide at runtime, like in terms of if you're starting a new chat or starting a new project, you need to decide which workspace you're working in to scope it, or an AI needs to decide, I guess, or a software system needs to decide which conversation threads you're having with, let's say, Codex or Claude belong to which scopes that other people can access. And I don't know if it's.
Yeah, it needs to be a little more explicit. I think you're right. You touched on them in different angles. So thank you so much for coming in, and yeah, we're just trying to get some high level stuff. Every perspective brings up something kind of new, either new for me or new for everyone, and your perspective is especially aligned with ours, us both being agencies. It was
I
really,
appreciate it. I think what you're doing is also really important because I think AI is going to make agency size smaller and there's going to be more businesses. And I think as we do that, it's going to isolate people's workflows more and more, and we need to sort of stay connected to different people's workflows to do well, I think. Yeah.
I'm gonna